Good afternoon, everybody. It is our pleasure this month to have our webinar, and it's going to be about bullying in schools, which, as you all know, has been a focus again this year due to the suicide of a learner in Limpopo who took her life after the bullying video went viral. And we are so fortunate to have Sandir Sumangal, who is a heritage and tourism graduate from Durban, and he is also a well-known anti-bullying activist and author of the first South African true story on bullying. His book is called The Unknown Journey. Sandir is also a member of a registered NPO called Chawsney's Epic Anti-Bullying Campaign, and they are based in Cape Town. Welcome, Sandir. It is really a privilege to have you today and to listen to your story. So with no further ado, I'm just going to hand over to you, and you can give us a brief glimpse of your journey into the bullying world. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Laurie. So my book, The Unknown Journey, is about my true life story throughout my years at high school. So I got bullied in high school from grade 8 all the way throughout my years in Matric. And I'm not sure the exact reasons why I got bullied, but I was teased a lot about my voice because apparently I couldn't speak properly or I had a weird voice. And I was also, I'd say maybe I was bullied because of my height, because I'm a very tall person and I'm also like very thin. So a lot of the time, people think that, tall people are easy to just, push over and take advantage of. So yeah, those were possibly the reasons why I got bullied. So I was a victim of verbal, physical, and cyberbullying throughout my years at high school. And as the years progressed, the bullying incidents became more severe over time. And no matter how many times I got bullied, I always stood up for myself, but it was just not helping. So I felt that a lot of the times when I did report the incidents, like very little was done to help me. And when the severe incidents occurred, the school just didn't want to assist. They were just like, sweeping the incidents under the carpet and were of like no help. So what bullying done to myself in my case is that it like made me damaged and very unhappy. And as the years progressed, I was becoming somebody that I am not. I always followed all the school rules and, I still got bullied, and like the bullies could break all of the rules in the school book and they could, just get away with it. So what it did to me, it turned me into someone that I am not. It made me become like angry and frustrated over time. I felt that I was losing my self-respect and losing respect for everyone else around me. And, I was actually lucky because I survived through it. And the reason being is because I had a strong support structure. Now, when I talk about support structure, I had a very good group of friends at the time. And my family was always there for me as well. And they told me, you know what, Sandir, no matter what happens to you, we are always there for you. And, they always assured me that I could talk to them. And that's what made such a big difference in my life because, just by talking to someone, you're expressing yourself to someone and, they can always help you out. But a lot of the times, because like I've been through so many incidents throughout my years at school, and I had to keep a lot of the things to myself because I felt that I was also becoming a burden towards my family and my friends. And, as much as my family and my friends couldn't understand the pain that I was going through or couldn't understand the situations I was going through, they really assured me that they were there for me. And that's what made such a big difference in my life. So reaching my breaking point, when I was in grade 11, I was 17 years old. And no matter how many times I got bullied, I still stood up for myself, but nothing was helping me. So one day after a very bad incident at school, I came home and I was like alone in my room with my cell phone off. And I just needed some time to reflect to myself about what I'm going to do next, because I knew myself, if I keep getting bullied, I'm not going to be able to take it anymore, because I'm just getting damaged and damaged over again. So after a while, I thought to myself, you know what? I can write a book about this, because I knew everything I had been through in the high school. I could write a story about it. And the whole idea for me to write a story about this was, to help other people as well, help other victims like myself. Because I feel that a lot of the times us victims are always judged for how we react to a situation where nobody wants to understand our situation. Also, on another note, while on writing, because I was damaged and very unhappy, I thought that by getting my revenge back at the bully, that would be the only thing to make me happy. But luckily, my parents held me within my boundaries, and they said, you can't and you cannot do anything, because if you do something back, you'll get in very big trouble. So I'm actually lucky that my parents held me within my boundaries. So I said, if I can't also get my revenge as to how I want to, I'm just going to write about it. So in grade 11, I started writing, and every lunchtime I would be in the library writing about my incidents at school. And this was such a good option for me, because at break times, it would avoid any incidents that could occur to me. And I also felt that by writing about my story, I'm expressing myself. And that's what really made me a much more happier person. I felt that I was now back in control of my life and my emotions again. So after I finished high school, which was 1 year, 6 months later, I now had a complete story of 214 exam pages. And somehow I managed to balance my schoolwork with my writing, and it all worked out. So I began my search for a publisher. So in 2014, I finally published my book, The Unknown Journey, becoming the first South African author to write a true story on bullying. And I first published this book for my family and my friends, because I wanted to, make them understand as to why I was unhappy and why I was always angry and frustrated. So after having such good feedback from them about my story, I decided to have my voice heard and go public with this. So I decided to go out and do talks in communities and schools. And that same year, I was also awarded or recognized by University of KwaZulu-Natal as a top 40 inspiring student for publishing my book on bullying. So in 2015, I partnered with a campaign called Chauncey's Epic Anti-Bullying Club, who are based in Cape Town. And ever since, we've been going into schools and in communities, sharing our story and, doing educational talks about bullying. Because bullying is it's a global issue. And in South Africa, it's just such an increasing issue, and it's really getting out of hand. And, I strongly believe that, education is the best thing for children, because we need to make them understand their actions of what they do to another child can ruin another child's life. And, I was lucky that I was able to cope with this and deal with it myself. And there was never a time when I felt like suicidal, but I did feel like emotions of loneliness and so on. But as long as I had my family and my friends, I knew I could survive through this. So yes, we partnered with the campaign, and ever since 2015, we've been doing community talks in schools as well about this issue. And yeah, that's just what I've been doing until now. So thank you, Laurie.
Wow, that is an incredible, resilient story you've just told us. And you know, it is incredible that the fact that you continue to be bullied, but you had the support of your friends and family actually made you survive this, because it must be a horrific experience where people, you know, all gang up against you and you just sitting there alone, and you've really done nothing wrong. You've done nothing wrong, and yet there's no one that's there to support you and help you. And you were very, very fortunate to have a family who gave you a very strong foundation, it appears, as well as a group of friends that were there for you. So I am so happy that your story had a good ending, and also the fact that you did write this book, which I'm sure is going to help a lot of people. I've got some questions for you.
Sure.
And the first one is, how do you think schools should interfere or react when it comes to bullying? Because it seems as though they are not doing anything really. They're not really focusing. There doesn't seem to be a policy. The discipline isn't strong enough. What do you suggest they should do, or even the Department of Education?
Yes. So before we go into like policies and all of that, you know, it's so simple. Like, you know, for example, in my school, every child was given a code of conduct, and we had to make ourselves familiar with the code of conduct. For everything else in the school, if you break any rule in the school, you get punished for it. But if you bully a child, somehow you get away with it. So I think the most important thing over here is that before we have other policies from schools and education departments, we need schools to actually do something about bullying incidents that occur. So because there's no point of having a policy written down on paper when you can't enforce the rules there. So we need to, maybe the solution to this, that each school should have like a discipline teacher that can, you know, follow up on these incidents and, you know, deal with it professionally.
Thank you. Yes, that can be a possible solution, but it just blows my mind that schools aren't taking this, still today, they're not taking it as seriously as they should, because, you know, they have the answers. They could have the answers to this and really stop it at the onset, and it seems to be just getting away with them all the time. And what would you say to parents whose children show bullying behaviors?
Okay, can I just clarify with you on that question? Do you mean parents whose child is a bully?
I do mean that, yes, I do mean that.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, you know, I always believe that a child's behavior, it starts from home, and parents should discipline their children from home, because it all starts there. And, you know, if parents could, you know, keep doing their part, it will just play an easier role for everyone else and the teachers as well. And, you know, the thing is here as well too, because I believe there are some really good parents out there as well. And, you know, as much as they can, you know, discipline their child and, you know, tell them what they are doing is wrong, I just feel that children today are like influenced with the wrong group of friends, or maybe over social media. So sometimes for the parents, I understand that it is quite difficult, but maybe if there are support groups out there, or maybe there's, you know, people like myself and other anti-bullying campaigns, if we can share our story of how, you know, bullying like affected us during our school years, then maybe we believe that, you know, those bullies can change for the better. Because also when I do this community and school talks, we are the ones that can look into the eyes of the children and tell whether they are being bullied or if they are the bullies. And, you know, when you talk about the actions and the consequences that a bully will need to face, then they realize that what they are doing is wrong and out of hand. Because if we hear about it too in the media today, like a bully will bully another person, and only when a bully needs to face the full might of the law, then they realize what they have done is wrong, and sadly it becomes too late.
No, that is sadly the case with that poor learner in Limpopo. And that should be a huge lesson for all of us, that
Yes,
we
yeah,
cannot wait for it to get to that point. It has to be
yes,
stopped
yeah.
before. It has to be stopped before. And what advice would you give a person that is targeted and is bullied?
Okay. So I want all victims of bullying to know that they are not alone. And I want to remind them that it's not a crime to express how you feel. You should not feel ashamed to tell a person how you are feeling and what you are going through. So, like I said, I survived through school bullying because I had my support structure. And had I not had those good friends at the time and my family there for me, I honestly don't know what my life would have been like today. And possibly my book would not be out today. So I want to assure all victims of bullying to report the incidents and to speak to someone close to you. It can even be a teacher, because if you keep running away from the situation and keeping things to yourself, it really will damage your mind, and it can play with your emotions, and it can even turn you into someone that you're not. So just talk about it. And if you feel scared to still speak about it, there are support groups out there like anti-bullying campaigns, and myself, I'm always approachable because I always get messages from students as well. So if you also feel afraid to approach a school yourself, I can do it for you.
Well, that's like really important to know, because that was going to be my next question, which is, sometimes it's not reported because of fear of repercussions. So
I understand that.
the person that's been bullied is too scared to go and say something, because if they then go and say something, they're going to be bullied even more because nothing is then being done about
Yes,
it.
can I give
So
you an
the fact
example
that,
from my
yeah,
experience? So
yeah,
it was in grade 10. I felt like not like reporting the incident, but I did make my parents aware about the incident. So my dad came to the school and he reported the incident. And the bully was dealt with by the teacher. And I think the teacher put him in detention or suspended him for a few days as well. And then what happened to me at break time, I wasn't bullied by the bully again, but I was bullied by the bully's friends. So thereafter, I felt like, okay, I shouldn't report this, and because it might still get worse. But how to come to a solution to this, that take in my situation or any other victim, if they report the incident to a school, I would like for schools to, keep a close eye to the victim and just monitor the situation. And because if the school sees that the victim is getting bullied again by a different person, they can still do something about it instead of letting the victim suffer in silence again.
That is a real good point, and that is what just I'm trying to grasp, to understand, is that why are schools not doing that? Because to me it's just obvious that if you go and report someone who's bullied you, this person who is the actual bully is going to let his friends know, and then they're going to take action, because
Yes.
that is how it works. So this is what I just cannot grasp, is why is that not understood or done? Or why isn't something done immediately, where, something is said, this person has done this, and if anyone else does anything to this child, serious action is going to be, it's not going to be tolerated. And,
Yes.
and I can't understand why this isn't done. Why?
The saddest thing today, Laurie, is that, many of the schools, we hear about incidents throughout our country. And as soon as a bullying incident hits the media or the news, only then schools want to act when the damage is done, or sadly when a life is lost. So if schools can really play their role and their part to address these issues before it hits the media and gets out of hand, or even worse, if a victim had to go back to the school and get the revenge. We hear about these stories throughout the world. So if schools can, play their part and enforce those rules in the code of conduct, it would be such of great of help.
Exactly. So, this is what I think this is a message that must go out to school. There has to be a raised awareness. The Department of Education must play its part in ensuring this happens, because it cannot continue. We cannot lose children to this. And it's not just schools that then become cyberbullying, where they put it goes viral, so that this poor child thinks the whole world is looking at it, and the whole world just becomes hopeless, helpless, and there's no way out. It just becomes a dark space for her or him.
Laurie, I was so lucky back in my day. I was cyberbullied. The bullies made a group on Facebook to try to chase me out of the school. They threatened me. They told me that they will come to the school and remove me, but I still fought them back fire with fire, even though my parents said, don't respond to them. So, it's just, getting out of hand. And I'm also lucky that back in my day, social media wasn't such a big thing. So no one took a video of my incidents that occurred to me, because had those incidents went viral, I'm not sure how I would have been affected, because by having a group on social media made about me to chase me away, I was affected very badly. So I really don't know how much worse I would have been if a video of me, for example, would have went viral.
I know, it would have been horrific, as it has been for many whose video has gone viral. It's been horrific. That many have just not coped with it at all, or they've completed suicide, or they're suffering from serious post-traumatic stress, which is awful, So I want to thank you for dedicating your time to us, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions that if you will answer will be great. And and let me see your book again, and later we will give the address as to where you can all buy a copy and support Sandhir in his journey to stop bullying. And the other thing is there a support group in KZN for victims of bullying?
Okay, so I know Childline of Childline South Africa has a support group there. I did meet up with them a few years back.
Has it got one here in KZN?
There is one here in KZN.
Okay.
I think it's on Musgrave Road. So there's a head office there. So children can also, approach them for help and assistance.
So they can approach Childline, and then Childline will let them know where they can go. Okay.
Yes, yeah. And there's people like myself, like I said, myself, The Unknown Journey, and my team in Cape Town, Chances Epic Anti-Bullying Club. We are always willing to help and assist victims if they need help. And if they feel scared to approach the school for help themselves, we do it on behalf of them on a professional way.
That's so important to know. Sandhir, thank you so very much for being with us today. And yes, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions for you, but I am absolutely thrilled to have met you and to see how you have resonated and how resilient you have become, and what a strong foundation you have, and the difference you're making. Thank you so much. Thanks.
It's a pleasure, and thank you very much, Laurie. I really appreciate this interview and talk. It was so interesting, and at the same time, it's very important to have these talks.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Hello, Kaylee, and welcome to SADC KZN. So lovely to have you here with us today to speak on this important and really relevant issue on bullying.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I know, I completely agree. It is. It's so important. And I think more and more now with COVID and the lockdown and everything that's happening. So thanks so much for having me.
Thanks so much. So I've just got a few questions to ask you. The first one is, we're going to jump straight into it. What is bullying and why is it such an important issue?
So at the moment, just currently like where the world is with COVID and the lockdown, we're seeing a lot more kids just, for example, you're stuck at home, you can't leave. The lockdown restrictions, it's led to a lot more kind of time being spent online. And screen time was already a problem before COVID happened. And now you've got even more. You're doing school online, you're doing work online, you're doing everything's happening online. So from a cyberbullying perspective, we're seeing a huge increase. And what we really do need to understand is the difference, in the different types of bullying. So there's 4 different types of bullying. So there's physical, verbal, social, and cyber. And in terms of understanding that, one question that I often get asked by teachers is, what is the difference between bullying that happened 10 years ago and bullying happening now? And to be quite honest, I don't think there is a difference besides for the platform. So bullying still happened. Bullying was happening 10 years ago, whether it was, on the corridor at school or in the school playground, but bullying was happening. The difference is more and more bullying is happening online now. So there is a stat that has been recorded, and it says actually 95% of teenagers are connected to the internet. So with 95% of teens on the internet, how many of those teenagers are the bully or being bullied? So if we look just in South Africa, we've got 1 in 5 kids who are being bullied or who have experienced bullying at some point in their life. So it's a huge statistic and it's growing. And I think I've definitely seen from my practice is bullying has increased since lockdown started last year, March. But in terms of understanding what is the difference between cyberbullying and just general bullying, 60% of learners actually say that cyberbullying is worse than bullying face-to-face. And something important to understand is, why is there a difference?
I think that's really important, Kaylee. And I think that brings us to ask, who gets bullied now that it's on cyberbullying is also a problem due to COVID being intensified. Who are the targets of bullying?
Definitely. So you've got a bully, okay, you've got a victim, and you've got a bystander. But another question that almost comes to mind is, so you've got a physical bullying situation, if we look at the Limpopo situation that happened with Lufuno recently. So she was physically bullied. Someone took out their phone and started recording it. These things are in everybody's hands. So they started recording it. It went online, it went viral. And at what point did that physical bullying then become cyber? And the person recording it, are they a bystander or are they actually a bully? So these are the sorts of conversations that are starting to arise, because it's not just one form of bullying anymore. It's, yes, that situation was physical bullying, but it's now being reinforced and spread online. So in terms of that, it's, it brings me back to kind of just saying, what is the difference between cyberbullying and face-to-face? So we've got physical, which is obviously the punching, the hitting, the fighting. Yes. You've got verbal, which is the words. So, actually saying to someone, you're horrible, you suck, you're a loser. Then you've got social, which is more intended to ruin someone's reputation. So excluding someone from the group or spreading rumors. And then obviously you've got cyberbullying, which is hurting someone online. So whether it's emotional or physical. And then we've even got actually another form of cyberbullying, which is called sexual cyberbullying. Sure. So yeah, things are changing like literally on a daily basis. But sexual cyberbullying is cyberbullying somebody, again, with the intention to cause emotional harm. But the nature of sexual cyberbullying is obviously in that it's sexual. So sharing nudes of somebody. Also what we've had in a number of schools in South Africa, in Joburg actually, where somebody took a photo of somebody else and edited it and turned that into a nude and then posted it online, and then went literally from pillar to post, and it was going viral. So we now have these sorts of things that we're also experiencing. There was something I wanted to say just now, but Oh, I remember now. So, in terms of just understanding why you asked earlier, why bullying is such an important topic
Yes.
and why is it such an important issue? And I think for me, bullying is such an important issue and a topic that we need to discuss is because 57% of learners experience bullying at some form or some point in their schooling career. So, whether that's in grade 1 or matric or even in university, it's happening. And now with sexual cyberbullying, it's even more. So it's
Sure, yeah.
definitely, yeah, it's things we have to be aware of.
I think, yeah, being aware is one thing, but also I'd like to know what are the warning signs that a child is being bullied? Because now we have this online platforms, we've got all these different types, but what are the signs in any? Because whether it's physical, social, or cyberbullying, there should be some signs that we can detect early on to prevent it, like you said, from all these incidents happening and progressing.
Definitely. So I think so every child is different and we know this, and every person just in general is different, and how you're going to experience one situation is going to be completely different to how I experience it. But one of the most important signs is just change in behavior and attitude. And that can mean so many different things. So whether somebody's marks have decreased or they are now withdrawing socially and only studying, or whether they were bubbly and now they literally not spending time with their friends at all, or if they're on their device and they start to become jumpy, that's something we need to be aware of, or whether they don't want to be on their device at all. So for me, the most important thing is there's lots of different reasons, signs, symptoms, all of that as to how do we watch for cyberbullying or for bullying in any form. But the most kind of in a nutshell, I think everybody needs to just watch for the change of behavior, because whether you're a teacher or whether you're a parent, it's really important to notice if somebody does start changing in their behavior. And we're not talking, from one day to the next, because that could also be exam stress, but it's in a long point of time. So just how we would look for depression or anxiety, in order to be diagnosed with a mental illness, you have to display certain symptoms for longer than 2 weeks. So I always encourage parents and teachers to be aware of what is happening to the individual child. Have you noticed a change in their behavior? And almost see the different signs and symptoms as a red flag. So if that red flag goes off and you start thinking, okay, what's happening? Is that child okay? They're becoming very jumpy. They don't want to talk about what they're doing online. They're crying before they come to school. They don't want to come to school at all. These are the things we need to be aware of and say, okay, that's a red flag. Let me actually just touch base with this learner. Let me check in with them. There was another statistic done actually, and it said 64% of learners who were bullied in any form actually experienced changes in their marks at school that went down, as well as their feelings of safety at school. So those would then also be two different signs for me, is if a learner's marks are decreasing, or if they're not feeling safe anymore and they're starting to become very worried and very stressed when coming to school. It's those red signs that we need to be aware of.
Okay, well, that's wonderful, because this applies to both the teacher and the parent at home. So what can a parent do if their child is being bullied? Now we know, okay, here's the signs, the child is being bullied. What can I as a parent do?
So there's so many different things. And I think one of them is just having a talk and an open talk, and allowing your child to feel comfortable to talk about what's happening, because as the victim of bullying, it can be very overwhelming and it can really affect the way we think, feel, do everything. So allowing your child to feel comfortable in that they can talk about being a victim of bullying.
And
the
create
other
that
two
safe
things,
space as well.
Exactly. These almost need to, in my mind, be dinner table conversations. Whether you are discussing just the online world and saying, I saw this online today and it made me feel really uncomfortable. What would you do if you saw something like this? So we're then normalizing that kids are on their devices. We know that.
Yes.
But they need to talk about it. We know bullying's happening, but they need to talk about it. So like you say, have a safe space to talk about it and normalize it. So make these dinner table conversations so that if your child is bullied, then they know they can come to you and they can say, okay, mom, dad, whoever, I think I'm being bullied. Because a child also needs to understand the difference between what is being bullied and what is being rude or mean. So just going back, so bullying, because it's such an important topic and I'm so passionate about it, I can just ramble and ramble. But so what a parent can do is firstly, stay calm. Don't judge also your child as to what's happening, whether it's online or face-to-face. If it is online, please don't take their device away, because if they are a victim and you take their device away, you're showing your child that they are now being punished for being a victim. But allow your learner, or not your learner, but allow your child to know that they can block if it is online and report. So all social media websites and networking sites have the ability to block and report certain content. So just encourage your child to block, firstly, whoever it is that is bullying you. And you can do that in person as well. So walk away from the situation, leave the situation, and then report it. So whether it's online and you're reporting it to the kind of creator, to Instagram or to TikTok or whoever it is, or reporting it to your teacher. Those are the things that are really important. The other thing with regards to physical bullying as well as cyberbullying is keeping the evidence. So whether it's pictures of bruises or keeping the videos that somebody else takes of the physical altercation, as well as keeping the evidence of these messages, whether it's on WhatsApp groups or Roblox or TikTok or anything, but keeping it, because if it does get worse and you as a parent decide to take it further and go to the police, you've got this information and you do have the evidence. But yeah, just in short, I think if your child is a victim, allow them to open up as to what's happening, stay calm, and also stay consistent in what you're saying and be there. Have that shoulder to listen to, but don't get upset because they're not choosing to be a victim of bullying.
Yeah, I think those are really interesting, because I would think my phone would get taken away immediately, but I think it's really important that it doesn't, because then it's making them be a problem that they are being bullied when they're actually a victim. They should not be subjected to this kind of, controller game when they're being bullied one side and now they're getting their phone or device taken away when it was something way out of their control.
Exactly. And I think also what a lot of parents, if, for example, my child is being cyberbullied, the first kind of thing that I want to do is take away the device. I want to take away the platform that is causing the bullying. But I'm then showing my child that I'm punishing them basically for being a victim. But the other thing which I just want to encourage parents and teachers to do is, firstly, don't retaliate. Because by retaliating, you're encouraging the bullying to happen, but don't ignore it. And also don't stop when the bullying stops. So if you deal with something with your child and the bullying stops at school, for example, you've spoken to the teachers, don't stop then. Carry on checking in with your child. In a week's time from now, say, how's everything going? Is anything happening? And again, watch for those warning signs.
Sure. So it's really about these small steps that can be used not only before the bullying, during the bullying, but also after. And I think parents should be aware of that okay, this incident's done, but that's not the be all and end all. We should always follow up and be that safe space should something else happen, given there's social bullying, cyberbullying, a whole array these days.
Yeah.
Now I've got another question. What would a parent do if their child is the one who bullies others?
So awesome question, because I think a lot of the time, and what I've especially noticed like in my business and in my practice, is that oftentimes kids who are the bully don't actually know that they are bullying. They think that it's a joke, or they think that they just, picking on somebody, but they don't actually understand the severity of their actions. So in terms of understanding what we can do as a parent if our child is cyberbullying is one part. But the question I always feel that needs to come first is, why do kids cyberbully, or why do kids bully physically or verbally? And oftentimes we find that they are maybe struggling, whether they're struggling academically, or they've got poor performance in sport, or they're trying to fit in, or there's peer pressure. They might be acting out, as a form of revenge because they've seen this child do something else, or they are looking for attention, or they are also maybe being bullied at home or reinforcing what they're seeing online. Maybe they are struggling with loneliness or depression or anxiety. So there's different reasons as to why a child is bullying. And that also, for me, I always say the victim needs help, 100%, but so does the bully, because the bully needs to understand, why are they doing this? So in terms of addressing it, if your child is the bully, first of all, find out why. Why are they bullying? What's happening? What's going on in their mind that they think it's okay? Because, when I do school talks, I always say to the kids, in my mind, I don't think it's fun being mean to somebody else. So what is the reason that we are bullying? What is the reason? And that sometimes is, for a parent, a difficult pill to swallow as to why is the child bullying. But again, stay calm, stay consistent. Especially if it's your child that's a bully, don't take their device away completely, purely because it's the same with any form. If I tell you that there's chocolate chip cookies in the fridge, but I'm locking the cabinet and you can't get it, I promise you they're going to find it one way or another, whether it's on their device or someone else's. So we want to use this more as a learning opportunity as well. Teach them how to be responsible, how to be, whether it's a digital citizen or just a good friend, a good learner. So staying consistent, but reinforcing also that there are consequences and there are punishments when it comes to things. So the crime has to fit the punishment. So I'm not going to say that, if somebody did something small, then expel them from school. No, the crime needs to fit the punishment. So, and as parents, you know your kids best. So reinforcing that, staying consistent, and also don't getting upset by it. But my English is not working. Don't get upset by it, because this is something that is happening. And like I said just now, there's different reasons why why kids bully. But it's just being aware of what's happening and then helping them, because this is actually a beautiful time to help your kid understand as to how to deal with bullying, how not to bully, how to be responsible and safe online. Because, like we all know, bullying is going to happen throughout life. Bullying happens in the workplace. Bullying is so prevalent in the workplace. So we need to be able to understand from, and I think it starts with kids. We need to teach kids how not to do this later in life. And if that means just using it as an education opportunity, then 100%, but also reinforcing what are the school's policies. If you're a teacher, reinforce this, make bullying programs, available, and just having that open opportunity to talk about it.
Yeah, I think that's really important, because if you teach them from young and as a child that bullying is not cool, firstly, bullying is not something you should want to do or feel empowered by. And if you set that from young, I hope that our society will be better and that we don't get bullied when we're older. But how best can counselors and schools address the issue of bullying within their system?
So I think there's so many things that we can do. But firstly, putting a spotlight on bullying awareness programs, because, like we said just now, 1 in 5 kids are being bullied within their school career. So that's a lot. So we need to have bullying awareness programs in place. We also need to have programs where kids can report it, whether that's, a bully box outside of the classroom or an online reporting tool like FaceUp or something, whether it's a WhatsApp anonymous channel or anything, just having a place for learners to report it and making that known, but also using those bullying awareness programs to educate kids. understanding for kids, what is bullying? How do you handle bullying? How do you know if you're being bullied? How do you know if a friend's being bullied? What are you supposed to do if bullying happenings? So yeah, my English there, if bullying is happening, but we need to just, have more talks, use things like social emotional learning programs. So that's where kids are taught what is empathy, like understanding self-awareness, understanding consequences, understanding what is mental health, how does mental health impact us, also learning how to deal with conflict resolution, because in a sense, my question is always, where did the bullying start? What did it just start straight away with bullying, or was it being mean and then it just increased and increased? 100%. And the other thing is also making staff and teachers aware of what's happening. So in my mind, knowledge is power. So if we can give learners knowledge, if we can give parents knowledge, if we can give teachers knowledge on how to understand what is it, how does it happen, where do we go for help, and what can we do to enable help, that's again 100%. And then just reinforcing bullying policies as well.
Definitely. I think schools individually need to work on it, but it can also be applied almost everywhere. This is what our system is, this is what our values are, and this is what's going to happen should learners engage in bullying. And I hope that this reaches far and wide and that schools and councils do address this issue, because 1 in 5 is shocking. I'm really shocked at the stats. And yeah, I think COVID-19 has impacted it, since lots of schools are now online or have access to more resources and available social media. So how has social media impacted bullying, and what can be done about it? Specifically cyberbullying, and yeah, just what can be done in general?
So I think that social media has had a huge impact on bullying, because I mean, in one kind of frame of thought, it's you playing Roblox, you can't see the person you're playing with. It's a device, and sometimes that takes it away, in that I'm not bullying anybody because I can't see who's on the other side of a device. So I think social media 100% has had an influence in an increased amount of bullying. And also obviously COVID as well. We're spending more and more time online, and I'm definitely not one to say, take social media away, chuck the devices away.
That's
I'm not going to say that.
In this modern
Exactly. 100%. And social media is amazing. I love the online world. It's very distracting, but it's amazing. And kids are on it because there are benefits. So I very much see now that home and school are not 2 different places anymore. It's one. There's no boundaries. There's also, social media has taken away the borders between countries. So, I mean, I've got kids that are talking to their girlfriends or their boyfriends in America or Nigeria. These things are happening, and there are dangers. As parents, as teachers, everybody knows that they're dangers. But I think in focusing on the dangers, we're actually taking away the power. Because with anything in life, there's pros and cons. If we have to, and I love using this metaphor, and it's probably can just speak to how much I love chocolate and donuts and sweets, but
don't we all?
So if we think of just donuts, I know that I can eat 2 donuts before I start feeling sick. The reason I know that is because I know how much I can handle. Donuts are amazing. But I also know if I have too many, I'm going to feel sick, and there's going to be negatives. And it's the same with social media. There's positives and there's negatives. We can't have one without the other, but we also need to know and teach kids how much online time can you have before it starts having a negative impact. So almost relating it to donuts. I can have 2 and then I start feeling sick. Okay, what is the same? How can I reinforce that with screen time in the online world? So just again, understanding that bullying, the online world, is an emotionally charged situation. So for parents just to have that understanding, but then educate our kids. We don't want to be spending or throwing social media out the door. It's got benefits and it's got positives, and we need to remember that. But we need to teach kids and educate. Again, knowledge is power. We need to educate them in terms of how to handle certain situations online, how to maximize the benefits, how to have the positives, how to use social media and the online world responsibly, and be a digital citizen. Because at the end of the day, like you said, it's not going anywhere. It's here to stay, for good and bad. But if we think of the online world, if we think of devices, we can't just give our children, our 3-year-old, a cell phone and expect them to understand that there's negatives and positives. I mean, they're 3. So what do we do when we talk in terms of driving? So I love this analogy because it's something that we do without even realizing. When you've got a baby, a toddler, a child, you put them in the car, you strap them in, you make sure that they're strapped in. And when they say, but why do I have to have my seatbelt on? We explain to them the reasons. And when we get to the red light, we say, no, we can't go because it's a red light. So we have to stay, wait for green. And we start educating them from very little. When they get to 16 or 17 and they start learning how to drive, they then go through a learner's test. And then they're still learning. They still can't quite do it by themselves. And then afterwards, they obviously then do their driver's license. Again, another test, and they're still not left alone. So we need to almost have the same sort of mechanism when it comes to the online world and digital devices, as well as just mental well-being from a school point of view. We need to start young. We need to teach them, we need to model, we need to show them what's happening. So if any teacher or parent is listening, and if you take anything away from today, please just take away the metaphor of teaching your child to drive, because I promise you it doesn't start when they are 16 or 17 or 18 years old. It started when they were 6 months old, when they were 1 year old or 2 years old, and you modeled the correct behavior with them. They're still going to make mistakes. I've hit a puddle, maybe had a little bumper bashing. We know these things are possible, but it's how you then deal with something that's then happened. So it's starting from the basics. And I think this is such an important topic, and whether it's bullying, bullying leads to mental health issues. So incorporating bullying, maybe that's the equivalent of teaching our children why it is important to strap in the seatbelt. What is mental health? What is mental illness? What is depression? What is anxiety? How do we cope with this? It's all about filling our backpacks, our toolkits, and having as much as we can, to be able to support us and guide us. Again, I can talk and talk and talk, so you must just stop me.
I think this metaphor is amazing, and I hope there are some lovely teachers and parents out there and who hopefully haven't incurred this yet, but can always use this in the future. But Kaylee, you have an interesting app and you are the director of FaceUp. Could you tell us more about this? Because it's specific for our issue on bullying, and I think it should be something that schools can use in the future. However, it does involve using a device and downloading, and also a form of social media, an app.
100%. So FaceUp is the whole aim behind FaceUp is empowering schools and learners, and then companies and employees to be able to speak up. Because, when I was in school, I know it's hard, and I also know that kids don't want to report. They don't want to report that they're struggling. So the understanding, or the aim behind FaceUp, is giving learners the option of speaking up and saying, I'm not going to be a bystander. I'm not going to just watch it happening. I'm going to be an upstand. I'm actually going to take charge. So FaceUp, so it's an app and a mobile website, or just a website in general, where learners or employees, so there's 2 different versions. There's a school version and a company version. They both run relatively exactly the same. But with regards to the school version, if a learner is struggling, whether it's mental health or they being bullied, or maybe there's sexual harassment or sexual abuse or problems happening at home, they can then report it via the app or the website, and that then goes directly through to their teachers at their school. So it doesn't come through to us as FaceUp. But what we have done is we've then trained the people in place at the school with mental health resources. We've trained them in terms of, if you get a suicidal report, how do you handle it? How do you help? If you get a sexual abuse report, what do you need to do from a legal point of view? You know, filling out Form 22, going to the police station, doing all of these things. So basically, with this app, we are kind of doing a systems approach where we giving training to teachers, we are teaching teachers, we are empowering schools to be able to understand what's happening. And then we are saying to parents, we're saying to learners, here's the call to action. Use it if you don't feel comfortable going face to face. Because obviously going face to face to a teacher, a social worker, a counselor, the principal, that is where you're going to get the best help. But if you don't feel safe, or if you don't feel comfortable talking about what you're going through, then use FaceUp. And the reason why it works is because it's on their best friend. So that's why we did it online. It's the same as having a bully box outside. It's just an online tool. And everything's confidential. You can find out more information, and we're constantly providing schools with training material and resources and information just to be able to, again, empower the schools to find out what's happening and how they can help. Because at the end of the day, the teachers and the school leaders, they are the experts on the kids and the learners and the teenagers that are at their school. So this is just a way of empowering them to be able to say, this is what's happening, this is who we need to help, and this is kind of where we can go from here.
I think that's fantastic. I absolutely love the app, and I would recommend it to everyone now that schools are online or half and half, or there's limited capacity at schools. This is definitely, you don't have access to the principal, you know, there may be some reservations. So I think this is definitely a way forward to address some of those issues. And Kaylee, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today with SADC KZN. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to hearing from you in the future.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I think I could go on for hours and hours and hours talking about this. It's such an important topic. So thank you so much for having me, and, you know, just for raising awareness. I think it's so important.